Can you go into it a little bit more on like how you decided to prioritize what I would say non-revenue generating activity over your business activities?
Yes, I think it's the balance of the people that you keep in your life. For me, I have a balance of friends who still value education versus friends who don't value education. So it's really about the people that you surround yourself with, because we don't, as individuals, don't all have it together. We don't have all the answers. It's all about pretty much finding people that value whose values line up with your values.
So I know that you'll agree, enjoying myself while I work is the vibe that I'm trying to be on. So I want to invite you guys to Sidebar ATL here in Atlanta, Georgia. Sidebar, on top of the good food and live music, they have 3 different experiences. That means you can join me in the garden room, in the gold room if you want to try the top of the line hookah, and they also have the dungeon where I hear what happens in the dungeon stays in the dungeon. So it's the perfect mix. If you're here on business or you want to blow off some steam after work, you can meet me at Sidebar ATL so that you can have a little bit of dinner and then turn up afterwards if that's your jam. So check us out, 79 Poplar Street here in downtown Atlanta, or you can call 678-800-0741. Let's get it, work and play at the same time, right? Welcome to another episode of the Work and Play Podcast. I'm your host, Ariel Young, a career transformation coach, and that's why I'm really excited to be here with a mental health professional. You're like the other side of what I do. And
really?
Yes, you are. Like as careers, change, that's only one facet of your life, right?
Yeah. But
mental health allows you to stay on your mental game throughout the entire process. So for those of y'all who don't know this man, it's Mr. Joevan Palmer, and I'm gonna let him introduce himself just a little bit, but I will say that I have really enjoyed growing as an entrepreneur with you, and then we get to talk to our stories about leaving corporate America and going into entrepreneurship. So without further ado, I'm gonna let you take it away.
All right. What's going on, everybody? My name is Joevan J. Palmer, aka Coach Joe. I am a mental health professional, podcaster, and consultant. I do lots of things in the various ways, but my main focus is the mental health profession. I am in school right now to become a licensed therapist, and I can't wait till December gets here so I can graduate, take my exam, and really become an actual therapist. Right now I'm a provisional therapist, so still can do some therapy, but I'm excited.
I'm excited too. Now let's start there. What made you decide to get your licensure?
Because you're limited with just a degree. So the degree, I'm just a social worker. Licensure, I'm actually can do clinical social work, where I can do therapy, I can work through diagnoses and stuff like that. So if I just say, okay, I just want my master's, that's it. I'm just a social, I can just probably just talk to people under somebody. Absolutely. If I ever wanted to branch out and do my own thing, I would always forever for the rest of my life have to be under somebody.
Yeah. Now the journey from leaving corporate America for some is that they never want to have to be in a job, work in a job. Where do you stand on leaving corporate America and being an entrepreneur now?
I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I sometimes say, you should have done this, because I waited time and year after year to actually make this transition. And it's coming up on a year in June 16th. It'll be a year of full-time entrepreneurship. And
roller coaster?
Absolutely. It's been up and down because the job provides stability. Entrepreneurship provides the roller coaster. Yeah. But it's a journey that's so fun though, because there's unlimited opportunities. What I'm realizing in entrepreneurship, I just got a new client 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And I wasn't even looking for this client. She sought after me and was like, I like what you do for so-and-so. Can you do that same exact thing for me? And I was like, sure. And just when you have a job, it's just when they ask you, say, when it's time for the promotion, it's just a small increase, 1-2% increase, if that, or if you're good at negotiation skills, which I'm not, it's just, sometimes absolutely yet. So you kind of just get what's kind of given to you. So, at the job, my last job before I left with, I was working for the government. And the government is just, they only give you but so much. They tell you what the increase is going to be. Yeah. And that's by switching positions. Versus they say, okay, we're going to add more to your workload, and that's it. Yeah. You don't get no raise or nothing like that. So entrepreneurship, I can say, okay, I want to raise this month. Okay, I need to go get 1, 2, X amount more clients, and that'll be my raise.
Yeah.
And say, you know what, next month I want to take it easy. I'm cool with what I have. So that's what I love about entrepreneurship, is just, you get to pick and choose not just the income, but who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with. Versus with jobs, it's like, that's your job. You have to work with that person.
Exactly. And even like the energy management, you know what I mean? Like when you say like, if you want to work this month and you don't want to work that month, then you just know how to manage your energy.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? But the other thing about like the entrepreneurial journey that we don't control, so I was doing a workshop and I literally typically my advice would be that you can choose the way you feel about something, right?
Yeah.
Like you can choose how you perceive it. But then there are some times when we're like navigating like the entrepreneurial journey and you're just like, I just don't feel like myself today.
Yeah.
So I think that as we talk about like the journey of what we can control, how have you learned to help individuals in that process of like the part that we didn't know that we could not control, like the part that when we're like, oh, I'm gonna work, next month, and I'm just not gonna, I'm not gonna work this month because I know I'm gonna go hard next month.
Right.
And next month comes and you're like, ooh.
I still don't want to work no more.
Right. How do you coach people through like, doing that? Is it more of a mind over matter, or do you allow people to like give themselves grace? What's your approach on navigating that like time where we just don't feel like ourselves?
So I think it leads with first giving yourself grace to find that boundary within yourself, and then but also knowing not to give yourself too much grace, because I think sometimes we hear the cliche word, give yourself grace.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you know what, I'm not gonna be so hard on myself. But when you're not so hard on yourself, it also teaches you mentally not to go hard at all. And there's moments in life where we need to go hard, because as I'm learning, like I can't just wake up and just lay in a bed, because for a minute, when I first left my job, I was just waking up like I'm just here.
I did that too. Literally.
Yeah, I'm just here, and then when I feel like getting up, I'll get up and do some work, but I'm realizing that's a horrible mindset to have, because what happens is you wait until 9, 10, 11, 12 o'clock to start your work day, and then you're up till whatever.
Yes.
And you may get a phone call that may say, hey, I need you to come and do X, Y, and Z. And then living here in Atlanta, it doesn't take just 5 minutes to get anywhere.
No.
It takes, depending on where you got to go, 20, 30, 40, and 50 minutes, and don't let an accident happen. Your whole day is shot, and you spend so much time in your car getting to and from, and you realize how much work you couldn't have gotten done, or you could have gotten done early in the day. So what I'm learning now is to really be intentional about my work days. Yeah. Really setting a schedule, like how work has its on a schedule, like bringing that piece of corporate into the entrepreneurship world of, okay, Monday, Wednesday, Friday will be this, this, and this.
Yeah.
Tuesday and Thursdays will be this and this only. And then in the mornings will be schoolwork. So I'm still in school. So my mornings is my phone's on do not disturb until 9:30. So I'll get up at 6:15, do my morning prayer, go to the gym, come in, shower, do homework, and then, okay, now I can start my day after homework is done. So it's prioritizing the things that are most important. Right now, school is the most important thing on my task load. Because I know what it's like, because once upon a time, I didn't make school a priority, which caused me to flunk out for a quarter. Luckily, I was able to get back in, but it was just, I'm seeing, okay, these are the things that need to be priority for me. Schoolwork first.
Yeah.
Well, my personal life first, as far as my prayer life and my spiritual life and stuff in the beginning of the mornings. Schoolwork, gym, and after physical and spiritual after that. And then work comes after all of that.
Yeah. I'm glad you break that down, because that's literally like a huge part of what I coach when it comes to owning your time. But personally, I struggled. So the time management, the mind over matter, I was really, really good at. In the first year, because for those of you guys know I got my master's in social work as well. The thing is, I decided not to go licensure, right? Because I had a different vision for it.
Right.
The first and second year, well, really the first year, it was no COVID. And I was like reading all the time, enjoying the schoolwork.
Yeah.
It was, and I hadn't been fully fledged in my coaching business, right? I was still doing the fitness business. But then second and third year, it became like I was making money in my business. And it was hard for me to justify sitting here reading or doing like intern work when it's like, I could be making money.
Right. Absolutely. Yep.
But so to hear you come here into the space now where you recognize the value of the education, Can you go into it a little bit more on like how you decided to prioritize what I would say non-revenue generating activity over your business activities?
Yes, I think it's the balance of the people that you keep in your life. So for me, I have a balance of friends who still value education versus friends who don't value education. So those are my entrepreneurship friends who say, you know what, you don't need a degree. This is how you can run these plays and make X amount of dollars. But then also have friends who say, you know what, I value education. My best friend is a PhD, getting her PhD right now. My Christina, she just got her PhD.
Yes.
Yeah. My homeboy, who's also my business.
She's also an entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur. So it's like you keep a balance of friends who do some of the things that are similar to you, but also don't do things that you're also interested in. So my best friend, she's not fully immersed in entrepreneurship, but she has a business on the side. So she's like, you know, the 9-to-5er and the entrepreneur all in one. And then you have a person like Christina, who's a PhD individual and an entrepreneur, who's killing in both arenas. And I learned so much from these people. So it's like, okay, I asked so many questions. Okay, how do you balance life and business? And she has a child.
Yes.
So I'm like, you got a child and it's just single old Joevan, and you have your life, your son's life, your PhD life, your entrepreneurship life. How do you manage all this stuff and excel in it well? So it's really about the people that you surround yourself with, because we don't, as individuals, don't all have it together. We don't have all the answers. So it's all about pretty much finding people whose values line up with your values.
Are you still trying to get a leg up on your entrepreneurial career? Now, I told you about the morning meetup, the community that was created for the betterment of entrepreneurship. And we are cooking up some really cool things. Now, here's the thing. If you join today, you can actually get in for 60% of the original price. So if you join today, all you have to do is download the app, and I provided the link below so that you can join us. We have community, we have a book club, and it's the largest group that meets every single day, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. to literally get a head start on entrepreneurship. So if you're still trying to grow, you don't know what your business is going to be, but you know you want to be an entrepreneur, this is the community for you. So check out the morning meetup, click the link below, download the app, and join us today.
And my best friend's values line up my values because she firmly believes in education.
Yeah.
You know, she has her master's, of course. She has her PhD. She's getting all the higher education. And then, of course, like I said, Christina. Then, of course, we have David Shanza, which we both know, who's full throughout entrepreneurship. Right. Of course, you don't need no school.
That's all the energy you need on this.
Right. You don't need no school. Just go get your degree. So it's just having the balance of, you know, knowing what your worth is, what your value system is, and just sticking to it. Because the thing about, I think a lot of people, the issue with a lot of people is they get swayed on one person's thought process on how to do things versus having a plethora of people in your life to say, okay, you can value entrepreneurship, you can value education, and they can all come together and make sense. And now I'm figuring that out. For me, is like my entrepreneurship life and my actual, educational life, they can come together and make sense, and which it does, because me getting my master's in social work allows me to become a better entrepreneur, because it allows me to study human beings, study how they think, study how they walk, how they talk, and also allows me to help peel back the layers of their traumatic situations. Because what happens is, if you don't go to therapy, if you don't pull back the traumatic situation of your life, you're gonna pull everything that you had going on in corporate America, and it's gonna spill onto your entrepreneurship, bro. And I realized that with me, going to work whenever I felt like it. My job was so flexible. It was like, okay, like my last job, when I was working as a social worker for the state of Georgia, I was supposed to be working 8 o'clock. Supervisor didn't really care what time I got to work, as long as I got there. And then I found a way around the system where it's like, well, I ain't gotta actually go straight into the office. I can wake up and go see a kid first, and then go to the office afterwards. So I'm like, oh, like if there's a kid,
my work day,
It's like I'm at school at 9:30. I'm still in bed. I'm picking the phone. Joevan, what time you come to the office? Oh, I'm at seeing so and so right now, and then after I finish seeing so and so, because you never know how long it's gonna take to see a kid, because we only see our kids once a month. And I like to really spend time with my kids, because I only get to see you once a month. So I really want to know, how are you doing? How your family doing? How's the relationship between you and your family? How's school going? How's the home treating you that you're currently in? So it's just being so engulfed in their lives, and then also ensuring that I set the boundary between once work it's off. Because when you're a social worker, you can get so caught up in the work, and you're taking the work home, you're taking the pain home, you're taking the stress home, you're taking the love home, you're taking so much home to where it's like, do you really have a life? And I had to learn that early. It was like, these kids aren't gonna stress me out, this job is gonna stress me out, these supervisors ain't gonna stress me out, these directors ain't gonna stress me out. And they figured that on early that Joevan's not the one that we're going to stress out.
Yeah. So the part that I'm picking up is like, one, it's a very big topic of like time management in general. And when you were at working for the government, right, and going to see your kids, you had the habits of like, you know, I wake up when I want, get there, but then when you get there, you're invested, and then you go into the office, and then your day gets packed up. That's the same story for a lot of us entrepreneurs who come out into entrepreneurship, leaving corporate or the 9-to-5 life, and then you don't have it all together. Then you end up doing the same thing. We talked about this before we even press play on the camera.
Absolutely,
you know? It's like being able to know what it is that you're doing before you start your day. So just so that you guys know, like, this time management piece is so huge. But also, I love that gem that you just shared about like setting your core values, knowing your core values, but then also surrounding yourself with people who align with your core values.
Absolutely.
Because then you can prioritize your day, basically like saying, this is what matters to me. And it makes so much sense because like when I first started doing the morning meetup, that was what got my day started. But then when it's like time to do schoolwork, you saying like, ooh, morning meetup or schoolwork?
Which one?
And that became the conflict of my core values. So it's like you have to surround yourself with more people, which I think would have been helpful in my first year.
Absolutely.
Because I think that I didn't even pick up on that adjustment. So that's dope. So let's dive into when life was super misaligned, i.e. corporate life, 9-to-5 life. For you, what does that actually represent? Was it a bad time in corporate, or did you just realize it wasn't for you?
It was like a combination of both of what you just said, because I graduated from school in 2012, and a lot of my friends, they were in the tech space, and I dabbled in technology. Like as a kid, I had wanted to be a computer engineer, and so I started actually taking computer engineering classes, and I was like, yo, this is not for me. This is too technical, too much of a headache, too boring. I'm just stuck behind a desk all day, and that's not my life.
I can't see you being a technical person.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Oh,
for a while. I was like, oh.
Wait. But you thought you wanted to be super technical. Was that because the money that you could get?
It wasn't. I didn't even know how much. As a kid, I was just so infatuated with computers. My first, I think one of the gifts all I asked for Christmas one year was a computer. It's like, all I want is a computer. Don't buy me anything else, just a computer. And I was the one that was always fixing stuff around the house that had to do with technology. Like, you know, I just got that stuff. It just made sense to me.
So you naturally did have that curiosity, that technical interest.
I think I get it from my dad, because my dad is very curious to when, like, he likes to take stuff apart and put it together. So I think that's a trait I picked up from my dad, you know, just through genetics, was just, that's something that I just have. But I like taking stuff apart, wondering how does stuff work, what makes it work, what makes it function. But I realized that same thing kind of just carried over into the social work aspect. I love to know what makes us as human beings tick and function, and I think that's probably what the technical part of life. So I wanted to be a computer engineer, and I realized that wasn't for me. But I graduated with a degree in sport management. I just needed to get out of school. I was already 7 years in school. I did a 2-year school and then transferred to a 4-year. 4-year didn't accept all the 2-year credits. So I had to pretty much start all over. It was a whole, that's another story.
Gotcha. But listen, I know exactly what you mean, but you decided to change your major along the way because you figured this is what's going to get me the credits quicker. Were you passionate about sports medicine at all?
No, not at all. I wanted to be I wanted to major in psychology.
Really?
But I was told that my dad had told me, you know, you want to make something, you're going to find a job that makes $50,000 or more to actually survive in the world. I looked up the salaries for psychologists. I realized they made like $30,000 and $40,000. I said, oh, can't do that no more. So, you know, it's just the influence. So the influence that you have, you know, sometimes you got to go against the influence that you have. Though your parents may want what's best for you, you got to stick to your guns and know, okay, this is what I want to do, and I'll figure out a way to make the $50K within this. You know, that's what I wish I'd had that mindset back then. So I switched degrees from psychology to sport management. I said, okay, what can get me out of school the quickest? This was it. Boom, did that, got into corporate America, I said, and then I was trying to look for a job in the sports area since I got a degree in it. Realized with sports, you got to be there all day, 24/7, 365. I'm saying no.
What kind of jobs were you looking at? Therapy? Or
not looking at therapy jobs. I was looking at
physical therapy.
Not even physical therapy. That was my degree once upon a time too.
Oh.
Yeah, I was like all over the place in undergrad, just trying to figure it out. Yeah, just trying to figure it out, and it was more so in the figuring it out, I'm realizing what I'm not good at or what I don't want to do. And then when I graduated, I tried to look for a job working for the Bobcats. they had like some entry level ticket sales type of jobs or entry level sales positions. I was like, okay, this can be a start. Yeah. They said, oh, this is the work schedule. And I said, no, I'm cool. Miss me.
What was the schedule? Oh, yeah, all day. You said all
day,
the time.
all the time, like because it's just a thing where they're trying to sell these tickets and stuff. I'm like, I'm good. So I moved to Atlanta, and
from where?
From North Carolina.
Because see, I thought you were from Syracuse.
So I was born and raised in Syracuse. I moved to North Carolina when I was 16 to Charlotte, and then went to Lewisburg College, and then from Lewisburg College I went to Winston-Salem State, and then graduated from Winston-Salem State and came to Atlanta after that. So couldn't find a job in North Carolina. I thought I had a job lined up with Pepsi. That didn't work.
So you thought you were going to work in corporate or Pepsi is corporate?
Corporate, yeah. So they had a management training program that I thought I had this job too. I mean, I had the first round knocked out, second round knocked out, third round met with the CEO. I'm like, okay, you got this joint in the bag. I'm coming from Miami from our graduation trip, and I'm on Twitter, and the guy who was actually going for the job with me, he said, I guess I got to start drinking Pepsi now. I said, dang, I mean, he must have got the job. So I DM'd him like, yo, congratulations, man. Looks like you got the job. He said, yeah, I got it. I was salty. I was salty. I ain't gonna front. I was salty, but it was just, that was my first letdown when it came to just looking for jobs in the corporate space. And then moving to Atlanta, I was working for a call center, Walmart, Bed Bath Beyond, Honey Baked Ham, like just trying to find job after job and just trying to find my thing. Did some tech jobs working for this company called McKesson, and that was like my first like feel for corporate America. And my homeboy, he got me the job because he worked there, and that's like all my friends, like I said earlier, they were in tech space. All my friends at that time, in my time of my life, they were in tech, and they're still my friends to this day. And I was like, okay, well, maybe this is what I should do. It makes good money. Why not?
Yeah.
Got into that world, I was like, I hate this. It was just too cookie cutter for me. It was just like, this is what it is, this. And it's
what was the role?
It was, what was the first role in tech? No, in fact, no. My first role in tech was actually I worked for Apple. Doing tech support for Apple. So people would call in, it was a call center, you could call in, you walk through all the issues. So all your people who call into Apple, probably talk to me once upon a time. If I cussed you off, sorry. But
you did not cuss the people out.
I didn't cuss them out. I just had a salty attitude because it's like you had to like the job, and then I also didn't like the questions. Like, this is not that hard for you. Press the button, reset the phone. You
remember that Mad TV when Jerry, what's his name? There was a skit on Mad TV where the guy who did The Mask, there's the actor, and y'all know who he is, but he would be like, oh, my computer doesn't work. He would come in, press reset, and then he would walk out, and the whole skit was about press reset.
Yeah.
Did you turn it on? Did you turn it off?
That'd be my first question. Oh, no, I didn't do that. You're supposed to help me. I'm like, reset it for me, please. Oh, it works just fine. I'm like, yeah, this is stupid. I'm over this. And I quit, left, went to go work for Hertz. So that was when I went to work for Hertz. Their management program, got fired from Hertz.
What happened?
What happened? Oh, so long story short was the whole rental car process. Part of the rental car process is there's a small piece of insurance to it. So if people get into a car wreck, her insurance company pays for cars for people to have so while the car's getting repaired. Lady came in. Issue was she had a car in her name for her, a car in her name for her underage daughter, because her daughter had hit her car. She returned the car, and I returned the wrong car in the system. Okay. So when she got her bill back, she was like, oh, this joint's mad cheap. Thanks, she got all elated. She's like, thank you so much. All you done, you just hooked me up. You know how we get black people. We get a little too excited. My white manager saw that and was like, what's going on? I said, I really don't know what's going on.
Oh, thought you did.
He thought I gave her this meaning. So they're looking to the back end of the system, realize that, they think I did it on purpose. So like the district manager comes in and some other manager comes in, we're talking, they put me on suspension for about a week. After the week of suspension, I get a phone call saying pretty much I gotta let go. Hit another depression because I gotta go find another job. So I went to Walmart. It was open. I had to actually.
Hold on, you moving so fast.
Yeah, because it's a lot.
That right there, because one, you didn't do it on purpose. And then it's like she's over there like, yeah.
She excited. I'm like, whoa, like no, like I don't know what you're excited about, but whatever. So she left, and after that investigation, I guess it was. I think they were doing some other investigations of other stuff I might have been doing that I should have been doing that I didn't know was doing wrong because I was just doing based upon what I was trained to do. Because I got trained by some people downtown in the downtown office. So they were like, do this, and this. And like, you can make, because it's like it's a base plus commission job. So the base is like $10 an hour. Commissions like be crazy if you do it right. So the guy's like, yo, if you want to make a crazy commission, that's how you do it. You know, it's all. He told me it's all right. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. Gullible me at the time. This is what I was trained to do.
Yeah.
So
how old were you?
Like 22.
That's crazy. When my first job, when I was working at Target, I remember my mentor literally taught me how to order. Because, you know, like we got this budget that's like $1 million. And he would literally go, like, just order whatever number. And as I got more mature in my company, people started looking to me as a subject matter expert. And I felt so insecure because I didn't really know how to do it the right way. So the fact that you mentioned it's like mentorship, this isn't even, it's like, it's a system of corporate. It's like when you start working somewhere, you get who you get to train you, and then whatever they teach you is how you learn.
That's what you learn.
And unfortunately, you get these mentors and these mentors who just teach you the wrong way. And the messed up part about like what I'm hearing is like you're doing the job the best way you know because of how you were trained, and then you get reprimanded and lose your job for it.
Absolutely.
But like, what were you thinking about like your future, your career at this time? Were you like, oh, this is over, or were you just like,
I don't know. Truth be told, I really don't know what I was thinking, to be honest. I just knew that I didn't have a job. I was living with my parents, so I had a little bit of a safety net because I wasn't paying no rent, nothing like that. It was just car note and cell phone bill. So it's like, if I can just find a job to just cover those two, I'm cool. Okay. So at the time I went to go, a new Walmart was opening up right when I got fired. So I went and applied to Walmart, got hired there, took a pay cut to like getting paid like $7-something an hour working there. And they're
no commission.
No commission. So I said, this is not enough. So I went and got a second job at Bed Bath & Beyond. And so I would go to Walmart in the morning from like 7 to 3, get like an hour in between, go home. Like my job was like literally around the corner from each other. So I go home real quick, change into my work clothes for Bed Bath & Beyond, go to Bed Bath & Beyond from like 4 till close, and was doing that. That was my life every day. And I was like, yo, this is not it.
Yeah, you were a hard worker.
Oh yeah, I never went without a job.
Yeah.
Always, regardless of what it was, I would work. So I worked at Bed Bath & Beyond, Honey Baked Ham, Walmart, the tech center. Let me see where else I worked. I think that was it. Because after a while, I went back to the actual Apple call center. I was like, I got to get something more stable, with a little bit more money.
Even though you didn't like it?
Even though I didn't like it, I still went back.
Yeah.
And after a few months, I said, this ain't it. And then my homeboy got me a job at McKesson, working there doing processing the technical orders. So a doctor would need X, Y. So somebody would go out and do their sales. I had to process it, get it sent out, and make sure that everything was set up within the system so they can actually have the actual correct functions. I forgot what I was doing, but it was something along that line. Just make sure this things function correctly and make sure orders were placed correctly and stuff like that. Had that job for a while, but it was a contract. So of course, no insurance, nothing like that. It was just
money, just pay.
Just pay. That contract wound up ending because they closed on that whole department. Okay. So everyone was leaving because somebody had bought out the department.
Jeez. And so now this one you actually stayed there for a while, but then they shut you down.
Yep.
You got laid off.
And I wasn't thinking like to just go and look for other jobs within the company. I was like, maybe something else is gonna happen. Nothing happened. So was without a job, and then I got hired on at this dental company, who they sell the actual dental software to these dental companies. So the salespeople, they'll go out and sell it. They'll come back, and then they'll put the order in within the system, and then I'll have to submit to them like the tickets and stuff like that, and make sure they have their actual software, the software ID numbers, and all that types of crazy stuff.
So you've been in a lot of admin type roles.
Yeah.
Where you had to enter the reporting information and that part. I'm thinking about all of the different jobs. It's funny because I really relate to a lot of just the working and never being without a job. Yeah. But then I'm also thinking what were because you said you were living at home. So when you grew up, because I had my first job at 14, right? So for me, I always got a job. I always doing this. I always making money. So I had a connotation, right? It was what it was. I had a brand in my family because Ari's the one who's gonna have a job or two.
I'm the same.
Well, yeah. What was your family life like?
So I felt like, grew up in, dual parent household. Mom and dad was both in the household, siblings in the household as well. But I was the middle child, so there was always sometimes I felt I just didn't fit in with my family sometimes, and then sometimes it's like, okay, I'm just different, so I was just cool with that. It's like you said, you always had a job. I always had a job. Yeah. I was hustling when I was a kid. I used to forge signatures for my classmates for $20 a signature. For like field trips and stuff? Field trips, report cards, whatever. My handwriting was I can just look at handwriting, okay, cool.
Really? Can you draw?
No.
Okay.
I'm just good at replicating handwriting.
That's dope.
Yeah. So people need signatures. My father's signature, like he has he's an engineer, so he has like that real choppy handwriting. So I just, I'm gonna do my dad this time. I do his signature. I do my mom's. Hers is real more flary and stuff like that. So I get hers, and then people like, dang, like who's son? Because I did it in school, because I forgot to ask my mother to do it. And somebody saw me, oh man, can you sign mine too? I said, yeah. And like, I give you some money. I was like, all right, cool.
You created a business, keep going.
Create a whole business in elementary. I think it was like elementary or middle school one. I think it was in 6th grade. So elementary still. So I'm doing signatures for people, and I get paid. They just give me like $20 per signature.
Wow.
So I did that, and then I was also cleaning people's houses. So I would go and a neighbor across the street, she was like, come clean the kitchen, do the dishes, cut the grass, and she paid me like $40 a week, I think it was. Nothing crazy, but at the time, as a kid, $40 is a lot of money. You ain't get no bills.
Shoot, first cell phone bill was like $35.
Right, so I can go get a cell phone bill for 1 week and be good. I would do that. I would, my grandmother, she used to sell like rib dinners and stuff at the top of the hill back in New York, so I'd go help her out, and she'd give me a little payout, and of course some free food, because grandma used to cook. It used to be banging. What else did I do as a kid? I was always just wanting to work. Yeah. Always wanted to work. I think my first job was at this place called Jeepers in Concord, North Carolina. It was like an indoor amusement park. That was my first actual like taxable job. But other than that, I've always been just finding stuff to do to make some type of money.
Yeah. So as you were like navigating like the layoffs, the firings, the quitting, like what type of support did your family provide, or what type of things did they say or not say to help you navigate that space?
I think my parents just knew how driven I was, so they just like childhood, they weren't too worried about me as a child, because like my grades were cool in undergrad, but elementary school, middle, all that stuff. Never had to like have my parents come to me about me getting in trouble, behavior and stuff like that. They never had to come to the school, so they just knew that Joevan just figure it out.
Dang. Did you feel like you needed more support though?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Just trying to figure it out, and really just like navigating the path of what I really truly desire. If they would say, yo, this is what you want to do, Joevan, go after it. Here's some support, this, that, I think I might have been okay. But I think that just part of it is also I don't want to put it all on my parents, because part of it's still me, because I'm just so independent to where I just say, yo, I'll make things seem as if I'm okay and it's cool, but deep down it's not. I was depressed for a minute because I was so active in undergrad, doing all types of clubs and president and this and the third. And I'm feeling like, yo, this piece of my resume should get me anywhere. Yeah. And it didn't. I'm thinking, okay.
I'm thinking the school.
I'm thinking all the stuff I did in school would transfer over to me applying to corporate jobs and saying, well, this kid, he did this in undergrad. He was president for this, his grades was that, he ran this organization, ran a marketing organization. He ran actually, all types of stuff in school. So I was doing so much in undergrad to where I thought that would speak volumes for me in the corporate world, and it didn't. And I realized that undergrad is just undergrad. You got to get out and do more. I didn't do any internships. So that was part of my lack thereof to do. I knew the internships. I didn't know anything about doing internships. Yeah. I was the first person in my family to actually graduate from college. So my mom, she just found her way through, corporate the way that she did, because back in the day, you really didn't need degrees like that versus how we need them nowadays if you want to succeed in the corporate. My dad, he got certificates within engineering and stuff like that. Of course, they both later on went back to school for things that they love. My mom, she just loves to cook, so she is in culinary school. I think she graduates this year. My dad went to school for to learn more about engineering and stuff like that. So they both eventually went back to school, but at the time it was just, they knew the best that they knew. And they knew that was the best of how they can guide a kid who they can't guide you through something they never done.
Yeah, that's facts. I think that's a lot. That's why a lot of people say like, you know, college isn't worth anything because a lot of experiences for us.
Yeah.
That's why my community is called the pioneers, because we oftentimes are the first ones to do something.
Absolutely.
And when you're a pioneer, like nobody around you knows how to help you because they ain't never done it before.
No.
So like a lot of us go through college thinking it's worthless because we're not doing you did the clubs. You at least did the clubs. You said you did a marketing organization.
A marketing organization where we marketed everything for the school. So if you had a program, the Work and Play program, podcast program in school, you would come to us and we would do all the marketing for you. We'd push it out to the school. We'll like, you know, have like setups within like, our thing called the Breezeway with music and stuff, get people help you get signed up for it. The whole push is what we did for it.
You got paid for it, or was it like volunteer?
It was all volunteer work.
Dope. But that's actually really amazing. But did you apply to marketing jobs when you graduated?
I think I applied for a few.
Okay.
But it was just since my degree wasn't in marketing, you only had club experience versus the educational experience.
I would have put that bad boy. See, I was the kid who always, hence my career. I was always career oriented.
Yeah.
I was always the person that was going to like put my resume, I was shifting my resume for every job. I don't know why I had that energy, but I would have put that marketing gig, I would have put that marketing organization at the top of your resume as a hobby, or I just would have put that like as my most proud project.
I didn't know none of that.
And I would have.
I just had it at the bottom of my resume. It was this things I was involved in school, and then here are my jobs, and of course graduating. You don't have, but Walmart on there. You got the freaking honey baked hams. Was like,
you didn't have that guidance.
That guidance and that stability. Like his resume is all over the place, just like he is. So
what made you start the marketing? Like, how did that come about?
So in undergrad, I was almost flunked out of school again. So just hanging around the wrong people. And then the right people. I just attract the right people. That's my life, has been attracting the right people at the right times. So I had a work study job, working in the campus life as an admin. Okay. So it's pretty much being their admin for people who came in, taking notes, taking calls and stuff like that. And this guy named Mr. Howard, we call him Pops. But Mr. Howard, Candace, and Shalee, I worked for all three of them within the office. And I think Candace asked to see my grades. I think she was asking, like, what are your grades looking like? And I was like, ooh, you want to talk about this? And she looked at my grades and she said, oh no, Mr. Howard, come out here and look at his grades. Mr. Howard looked at my grades and was like, yo, what's up? Yeah. And he said, yo, what are you doing? I said, man, I'm just partying, having fun. He said, you hang around the wrong people. I think he had called Shalee, and she was like, you need to get involved in something because you're not hanging around the right people. And Shalee, she was over the actual marketing agency that we work for. It's called Campus Life Marketing Committee, CLMC. And to this day, those are like my dogs. Like those are my homeboys and homegirls. Like they were the right people that I need to be around. Because I met through them, I met some people who, my homeboy OB, he was in the library every day. Wow. He called me, where you at? I'm just chilling, man. Bring a bunch of library. So we used in the library, grinding it out.
So now you pulling other people up, being a better influence on them.
Because it's like, he wasn't involved in stuff. So it's like, you know, he was helping me on the educational piece. And I was helping him just get more involved in school because he was just pretty much just going to school, leaving, going to school, leaving because he stayed off campus. And so it's like, you know, it was like a win-win for both of us because he got to know a lot more people. He got involved in the organization that I was a part of, and then it also helped me bring my grades up and realizing the importance of education. You know, college is, you know, you're supposed to have the time of your life in college, but you also need to have balance to actually make sure that you're getting your education's worth. You know, you're paying, because I was an out-of-state student, so I'm paying $20,000.
So it's like, you better get to work.
Exactly.
It's crazy because like as you talk about your story and growing up and the different jobs that you've had and the support and no guidance like of your journey, the part about you that likes to lift others up was there
always
along.
Been there. Yeah, and I never knew it.
Yeah.
Never knew it.
So what was the last position that you had? You mentioned it was in the federal government, right?
Yes, the last job I had was working for the federal government as a social worker for DFACS. And I had got so stressed and so overwhelmed with the job, I just needed a break. So one of my friends, she like assisted me now to this day. Like, you know, it's just weird. Like, you know, you go to jobs like, I don't come here for no friends, no family, you know, just here to do a job.
Keep the work.
Just keep
Instagram
the work.
private.
Right. Everything. But she just became like a little sister to me. Her, it's like a little small friend group. Like we all came into the job together, and we just kind of hung out. We went to lunch together. We go hang out after work. And I never did that at work. Never.
You got a little work best friend.
Yeah, got a little work best friend. Right. Now, on that.
Work best friend.
I had a girlfriend at the time.
Oh, you did?
I had a girlfriend at the time, so it wasn't no whole work wife situation.
Okay.
But we just all like we just got just best friends. Like me, her, two other girls, we just all just clicked up and we got hung together. Mm-hmm. And she had went on FMLA because she was stressed out too. And I was like, yo, she's like, here's go. I didn't know anything about FMLA. She's like, yeah, I'm on FMLA. So how long you gone? She's like, 2 months, 3 months. I was like, dang, for real? Like, what's up? Tell me, like, what I do? She said, yeah, go see a therapist. And I actually had a therapist at the time. So she's like, a therapist can just write you out of work, tell them exactly why. And because I was depressed at work, overwhelmed, my anxiety's through the roof because my caseload kept growing and growing and growing because I was so good at the job. And it's like, it was a gift and a curse being so good at the job because I can get a case, work the case, get these kids back, reunified or, as quick as possible, or build a crazy rapport with these kids and their families to where it's like, I'm breezing through it. Like my work, my case stuff, you get a whole month to finish out your caseloads as far as like seeing the kids, documenting stuff. I had that done the first 2 weeks. In my last 2 weeks, I'm just chilling.
What do you think it was about you that made you good with working with young people?
The best way to support the Work and Play podcast is by subscribing to the YouTube channel and by going to your favorite podcast player to subscribe and rate the Work and Play podcast. That's all you have to do. So if you are liking the Work and Play podcast, the content, the stories that we're sharing, and you know that this will help someone, go ahead and share the content to someone who could actually use it and help them on their journey to transition from corporate into entrepreneurship. Now let's get back into the episode.
I think because I see in these kids a lot of what I missed out of my childhood, and I don't want them to miss that piece of their childhood. So it's like it's like for me, it's also like an opportunity for me to reconnect with my childhood, but also give these kids what I missed out as well as a child. As far as like just having a life, having a childhood. Because like part of my childhood was sexual abuse. So I kind of like don't get a chance like to relive the age of 12, 13, 14, 15 because I missed out because of the abuse that I was dealing with. And inside of me, there's a child that just wants to live. And I get to see that child inside these other kids I work with. So it's just understanding like, you can be the child still, but you can also be the adult. And then also learning, when I worked in the nonprofit with teenage boys, I learned from my homeboy Ken. He taught me so much about this field. Like he's the one that actually he took a chance on me. I had no experience in nonprofit, no experience working with kids. I had worked with kids in my church. And I started this mentoring program in my church. That was the only thing I had on my resume that can get me in the door.
Okay.
I applied job after job after job after job. Nothing was coming through. He's like, yo, you came to the job because corporate actually helped me with this part. Corporate and my dad. Corporate, you go to corporate, you got to be suited, booted to the nine. Yes. My dad would tell me, every time you go to an interview, make sure that you dress to the nine. My dad, that's his thing. He's dressing, he got that all day.
Okay, make sure you make that best first impression.
Right, he see his closet, he got suit galore in there.
Okay.
So,
hey, Pops.
Right. So I went to the interview, had on a suit and tie. I don't think I did a tie this time. I had a suit, came on a portfolio, dressed, clean cut and everything like that. He was like, the reason I said I hired you because one, the way you presented yourself in the interview. You didn't have any experience, but the way you presented yourself showed me that you got some sort of, idea or some sense of
how to be a presentable
how to present yourself. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's what got me in the actual field. I was very green. In the beginning, I didn't know anything. I'm calling him all the time, like, yo, the kid did this. What I do? Yeah.
Like what? Tell me what.
Yeah, tell me.
Like for me, when I first started going into, so I was a corporate volunteer, and then I went in. But when I went I was no longer Miss Ari. I was like, oh, this is a whole different way to deal with kids. What were some of the situations that you dealt with that you were like, yo, how do I deal with this?
Kids fighting, kids wanting to fight you, and you not, and like what's up? Like, but you can't fight them.
Yeah,
you fight if you fight a kid in this space, it's over for you anywhere else that you want to go in this space. Like I had a kid try to fight me twice.
Yeah.
You got kids punching out windows. You got kids, what else these kids are doing? Running away. You got kids, intentionally trying to harm you so they can get you out of the job.
Yeah.
So these kids are smart. And you had to learn to pretty much outsmart them. So I realized that the way they're doing that is, one, not raising your voice to these kids. Two, talking to them like they're normal human beings. That's all they want, is just love, because they're not getting it. You know, just being like, I was like, really like, these kids, actually, I know some of these kids still to this day, we still talk and communicate with each other. It's just really just not being their best friend, but being the perfect role model for them. And realizing that each kid requires something different. So I can't be the same person. I can't be the same Joevan to, you know, kid 1, kid 2, kid 3, and kid 4. Kid 1 may need attention on the love side. Kid 2 may need love side on the, you know, the athletic side. Kid 3 may need love on the, you know, the support side. So it's just understanding, learning these kids. So before, you know, the job taught us read their charts, they'll tell you everything about them. I didn't want to do all that.
The technical work, it wasn't something.
Yeah, no. So I would sit down with the kid first. Yo, what's up? Who are you? What's your name? I think when I first came in, this kid told me, I said, what's your name? He said something stupid. And I was like, what's your real name? And my supervisor saw that. He was like, yes. And when you said that, I knew, okay, you know what you're doing a little bit. And it's really just reaching down inside these kids, finding what their weaknesses is, and then pulling their weaknesses out of them and showing them how to turn that weakness into a power, greater power for them. And that's what I did with all these kids. We had some kids, they come in and out, you know, kids going to jail, kids going to homelessness, stuff like that. But it's just the passion that I had for them and for these kids. I love that job. Like, if I can work there to this day, I would be there right now. That's how much love I had for just kids and individuals and helping them become better, because that was one of the best jobs I ever had in my life.
Yeah, you're an impact-driven professional, which I didn't have the language for before I came into the space. But the way you talk about, you know, the passion that you have and the way that you reach down into a young person is like very intuitive for a helping professional. Someone like us who has like those relationship skills, those like, you know, connectedness skills. It might seem like it's just intuitive and it's just like, oh, anybody could do that. But one, everybody can't from like an intuitive perspective. But there's also like, you know, the technical skill sets that you're learning now in social work. So now that you are in school, kind of reaching forward just a little bit, but I do want to go back a little bit. What skills do you realize from being green, right, to like being kind of a seasoned professional? What are the skill sets that someone like you grows and develops from it being like super intuitive, like talk to them like a human, to being like, no, I know this, and these are the things that you have to learn when you're in this type of space?
Yes, I think it just kind of goes back to just knowing yourself, becoming more self-aware. That's like one of the biggest skill sets anybody can have. Outside, even if you're a professional, social worker, entrepreneur, it's just being self-aware and just understanding and knowing like, okay, this is where I'm really great in, and this is not where I'm so great in. So like, I was big on collaboration in social work, where if I didn't know something, or this is one of my strong suit, going to my supervisor, hey, I don't get this part of the job, can you help me? Or this is part I can excel in, hey, I got this, and I can help somebody else do the same exact thing. So it's just, the collaborative efforts is like one of the biggest skill sets that you can have as a social worker or as an individual, because it makes the job a lot easier instead of you trying to carry everything on your back. Communication. Learning how to communicate with clients was one of the biggest things. Hey, my name is, as soon as I got the case, I'm calling you, hey, my name is Joevan. I'm your new case manager. You know, hey, I'd love this time to sit down and talk with you, just get to know you a little bit more, see how I can best help you. I'm not here to just keep your kids away from you. That's not my job. Because that's what people think social work is.
Absolutely.
Every time I tell people I'm a social worker, oh, you take people's kids. That's not my job. That's CPS job.
Right. It's only one small facet of social work.
After that, my job is to reunite these families back together. And that's what I want. I don't want to keep the kids in the system, because I see how this system works. One, it's not built for black kids. Two, it doesn't benefit families. It's just, at the time, you think about this gap right here. It's the kid, the family, this gap, which is the social workers here. And it's like, my job is to fill this bridge, this gap, so these families get back to these kids, and these kids get back to their families. Because I know when I was in the group home, these kids, they didn't have, once you're in a group home, you pretty much don't have nowhere to go. It's like, this is your last all, end all, be all, until you go from the group home to independent living to living on your own. Versus social work field, as like, you know, being a case manager, you have the opportunity to go back home to mom and dad.
So you can prevent them being lost in the system.
Yeah, because I've seen a lot of kids get lost in the system, go to the homeless shelter and going to jail, you know, being locked up for years now. And it's like, I don't want that to happen to these kids that I'm working with now. So I learned from being at the group home I don't want these kids that I'm working with now to have to fall into that part of the system, because once you fall into that part of the system, if you don't have the right guidance or if you don't have the right mindset, right, it's over for you.
Which typically they don't, because otherwise they wouldn't be in that situation, right?
Exactly, yeah. Well, for the most part, though, because sometimes just either
they were placed in that situation.
They were placed in that situation because, like, either parents died, parents were on drugs, or parents just like, I don't want this child.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm glad you say that, because this is where the delineation between micro social work, meso social work, and macro social work happened. Because I came into social work at a place from a high level going into social work, like, oh, okay, these kids are going through real things. Understanding that, from my perspective, I'm learning their lives, the things that they've been through from a traumatic perspective. But what I realized was I'm more suited just to be a level above, right? To talk to someone like you and understand what are the things you know as a professional to bring together a program. But then you asked me this on your podcast. On the Living Blessed podcast, you asked me this, and I was like, I had to do some reflection. Because in my work, in direct social work, I didn't necessarily notice any trauma of my own in those settings. Because I was like, I'm so far removed, this is not my life. But then I share with you how I learned about my trauma. When did you recognize or identify throughout all of the jobs that you've had through corporate, government, and foster care, when did you start to identify your trauma and start to identify with the healing side of what you do as a coach now? So it was at the nonprofit. Part of nonprofit at the group home was taking the kids to therapy. And we actually get to sit in on their sessions. So if there's anything we need to report back to my supervisor, we can document that in our shift notes. So I'm sitting here, and the kids are sitting on the couch. We're sitting on the couch. Therapist sitting over there, and she's just talking to them. And they're getting these opportunities to talk about all the stuff that I read about them that's in their charts. Being molested, losing parents, or being, a child who grew up, who mom had drugs, who were doing drugs while they were in the womb. And so all this stuff they get to talk about, and they started finding their own healing and their own path to life. I'm like, this is cool. Wow.
Mind you, I've never been to a therapist at all in my life. This is my first time actually interacting with a therapist, but I wanted to study psychology, which is crazy. But for some odd reason, therapy wasn't even mentioned in college, which now I think back to it. I just don't remember. Maybe I just wasn't immersed enough in the actual field to say, okay, there's therapists. We had therapists at our school, once I found out later, but it was just something that wasn't really talked about. Like, black
kids. Check out your mental health.
Check out your mental health. Like, how are your mental health? It wasn't really talked about campus wide. So they're sitting there talking, and I'm like, as they're talking about the stuff they're going through, I'm thinking about my life, like, dang, I got some stuff going on. I'm jacked up. Like, it's stuff from my childhood that I hadn't talked about. Me being molested, or me feeling like, the outcast of my family. All that stuff, that childhood stuff, that not feeling loved or not feeling like, I was enough and everything like that. I never got the opportunity to talk about that. And after the kids had walked out, I talked to a therapist. I was like, hey, like, that was really cool what you did with those kids. I'd like to talk to you one day. She was like, sure, absolutely. Go see so-and-so, get on the calendar, and we can come and talk. And I was a nervous wreck when my first session, because I didn't know what to expect, but I was ready. And I wanted the whole experience. Like, she had a couch in there, and you see on TV people lay on the couch, and the therapist sitting like you, and then the couch is over here. And I went, kicked my shoes off, laid down on the couch, everything. And she's like, why are you here? And I told her my whole story, everything like that. And if you want my story, you can catch it on my podcast, episode 1. That's my whole story. Cause I don't want to go into details here, because of course time. But that's when I realized that the connection of who I was as an individual and the connection of these kids was like, our lives are the same. These kids were molested just like I was molested. These kids felt abandoned just like I felt abandoned once upon a time in my life. So I'm identifying with their problems, but the difference between the two was I was an older adult with wisdom. They're still in this childlike manner, just trying to figure it out. Right. And I had part of life figured out through wisdom. So as long as I can impart this wisdom back on you, hey man, this is how you do it. I feel you. I've gone through, and just telling you, I went through that same exact thing. The kids like, okay, now I got something I can relate to. So I was real relatable with these kids, going through life, though I had my parents, I had a house to go back home to and stuff, but that was the only difference. On paper, if you look at our lives on paper, it's the same.
Right. Which means that you identified with the trauma that they were experiencing.
Yep.
I'm thinking about, so one, I think it's a blessing that they even got therapy at that age. You know, sometimes it's court ordered, or sometimes it's like, you know, the school notices something. But I do think that I have seen therapy in a young kid really open up their mind.
Absolutely.
And so for children who are processing their trauma ahead of time, that's a blessing. But for you and I, we both talked about our story, and it's like, we didn't learn about our trauma until we were adults, right?
Yep.
So looking back at your career journey specifically, I know that's only one part of our lives, but it's all connected.
Absolutely.
How would you say, like, young Joevan, mid or young adult Joevan, and then like adult Joevan, how would you say like your trauma affected your career process over time?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. It's a great question. Now that you mentioned that, I think because trauma teaches us how to survive and how to thrive. And that, I think every job I went to, that's all I was really just doing. If I just get this job and I can just survive in this job and somehow try to figure out how to thrive, I'll be okay. Instead of just figuring out, okay, how does who the person that Joevan is made up of fit into this role? Or even if this is the right role for you, because when trauma teaches you, just take what you can get. And that's what I was doing. Just take whatever job I can get, I'll just take it. Instead of saying, you know what, this is the right job for me, I'll wait a little bit. I'll be patient. You know, I'll wait on God and say, okay, what's going to work out? What's going to work out for me? You know, I think trauma teaches you got to just find a safety net, find a place to be safe at. And I was just going at whatever job I can get. That was a place I can be safe at because it provided security for me as far as my financial needs. Even if it only paid but so much, okay, I'll just figure out. I'll go to another job, get a second job, or I just, won't spend this much money. I was just getting enough versus going for what's made for me.
Right.
So now the healed Joevan is, okay, that job's not for me. I'll wait a little longer. You gotta be patient, and that's what it was. It was patience because I got fired from my last corporate job. I said, I'm not doing anything else in the corporate space at all. And that's when I applied for all the jobs in the nonprofit space because I knew that that's where I needed to be.
Okay, you got closer to where you wanted to be.
Yeah, I said, my prayer was, I was my grandfather. I got fired on vacation, visiting my grandparents. What? Yeah, wild.
I know we got time, but it's like, at the same time, what really frustrates me about hearing stories, because I'm not trying to vilify corporations.
No,
but when it's like you and your personal life up against whatever the corporate systems and regulations and policies are. I hate that that's like a motif.
Yeah.
It's like, bruh, I was trying to see my grandparents.
That's it. I was on vacation to visit my grandparents. Got a call from the recruiter who had actually got me the job. And he was like, they're going to let you go. I said, for what? He said, that was like something crazy that had nothing to do with what I was doing.
Okay, it wasn't an infraction or anything?
No, it was just like, truth be told, a lot of people at the job did not like me. And I didn't realize that because I was so just naive at the time. Because I was really good. Any job I go to, I'm good at. I'm going to figure out how to do the job and I'm going to become good at the job. And I think a lot of people just didn't. I didn't realize. That's when I realized, people really just don't like you. They'll do whatever they can to get you out of the place. And I was thriving. Of course, I had a few mistakes here and there because I worked really fast. And there were sometimes I just need to slow down and do the job. But I guess I was just making other people look bad in their role because they've been there for so long and they just kind of been doing just enough to get by. And I'm doing enough to grow and get to the next level of the job. So that, and then the director, he was like, yo, if you got any issues, come let me know. And it was a very unorganized, unprofessional setting that I was working in, music being played. It was cool, but it wasn't cool at the same time. Because, we walk around with our shoes off, the supervisor, she cussing, talking real crazy towards people.
Yeah, that seems like a lot of room for just mess.
Yeah, it was real messy. It was real messy. So one of the girls, she encouraged me, you should go and talk to the director, man, because it's you got a lot of stuff to say. Lo and behold, she just didn't want to because she was scared to talk to him because she knew that if she said so, she might lose her job.
So she tried to use you.
Since I was the pawn.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it until afterwards. So I went to talk to him and say, hey man, just the kind of things that I've been noticing within the role. I guess he went and talked back to the supervisor. The supervisor probably went and called my recruiter, say, he ain't gonna fit. He's not a good fit for this. Yeah, that's what I've been doing, reference some fellas. And got a call, got fired, and then talked to my grandfather. He said, don't worry about it. I said, all right. Grandpa said, don't worry about it, because my grandfather's my best friend. He said, don't worry about it. I trust your words. Don't worry about it. So I got back to Atlanta. I said, God, applying for anything that's purposeful. Any job I want, it's gonna be purposeful. And that's how I applied for every nonprofit job. Got denial after denial until I got the job at the group home.
Wow. I'm thinking about the process of you being in that environment and one being a pawn. Well, I'm thinking of two situations.
Mm-hmm.
Being a pawn in the corporate space is traumatic. And then the other part is being fired from like hurts.
Yeah.
When you're just doing, you know, you feel like you're doing your job. Maybe you made a mistake and it's just like, dang, right?
Yeah.
That hurts. I feel like those two things can be enough to heal from in itself.
Absolutely.
So now at this point, we're piling up some things that we got to go to the therapist about. And I'm just thinking, dang. You know what I mean? Like you having to go through your healing journey. And you had, at this point, you hadn't even been to therapy yet at the time.
No. So it's like all this stuff is just, I'm just dealing with it. Just like, it's really just like, okay, whatever. Like how I dealt with stuff as a child.
Yeah.
You know, just I suppress it and move on. Move on, suppress and move on. And I didn't realize that there's this thing such as called corporate trauma.
Yeah.
You know, there's traumas that we deal with in corporate America that no one really talks about.
Yes.
You know, for women, dealing with, you know, the hierarchies of males. Or for men, as a black male, dealing with the hierarchies of white males.
Yep.
You know, and how they treat you and how they belittle you and how they make you feel like you're worth nothing in these jobs.
You can't do your normal response.
No.
Because, you know, our brain works fight or flight, right?
Yeah.
You can't fight, or you could and then you fight. And you can't run, right? So oftentimes we freeze and we get in this situation where we don't really paranoid. So you're literally speaking to the part that I focus on a lot more because that's where my healing journey began, right? So when did you decide? So you said, okay, never again corporate. Then you went into the government, but obviously we know you went into entrepreneurship. So when did you start to open your mindset up to being an entrepreneur?
It was my environment again. So my environment had me. I was always an entrepreneur as a kid. We talked about as a kid.
Yes,
always doing stuff, and I've always wanted to own my own business. I was the guy. I was the friend in the friend circle, always thinking of business opportunities or the business ideas. Yo, we should do this. We can do this. We can do this. I know nobody's gonna believe me, but I thought about Twitter before Twitter became a thing.
Let's go.
You know, nobody believes me.
Let's do some tweets.
Yeah, like you just.
What was the original idea so we can have it?
It's just a place where you can just tweet out, like pretty much just text out your thoughts. Because I always had thoughts in my head and I always just jot them down in a journal. But it's like, what if you can just put this onto a public space and people can just talk to it about it? And I never knew what to call it. I was like, dang. Then Twitter came out. I was like, dang.
And you had tech friends, so this really could have been.
It could have been a thing. I could have been a billionaire right now. You could be sitting down and talking to a billionaire right now.
That's a fact.
Absolutely. But my environment. Once I moved to Atlanta, I've always wanted to have a t-shirt company. And while I was at the work for Apple, one of the girls, she knew David Shands. Okay. And she's like, yo, you should like connect with him. You live here in Atlanta. You know, here's his social media. I think so, at the time Instagram wasn't jumping like that, but it was a thing. So I followed him on social media, saw he had his first conference, went to his first conference, met my boy who Marcus. We got together. He was working 4 days. I think he was working 4 days with Dave or something like that at the time. And Dave had a what do you call those things? Vision board party.
Nice.
So I went to the vision board party. He was saying, you know, the best way to grow in entrepreneurship is either have a team or join a team. If you don't have a team, join a team. And I didn't have him. I was still fresh to Atlanta. So I was so nervous to ask this question, but I raised my hand and he's like, yes. I said, so do y'all need help? He was like, yes. And I heard the desperation in his voice because I'm my empath. So those type of things, you can hear those clear. He was like, yes, we do. So I went to go, he said, go see Janae. And then she'll tell you, get you plugged in. Saw Janae, she got me plugged in, like managing the e-complex. No, I was doing the billing, the admin work for Sleepless Nights at the time. All the billing and the transferring stuff I've been doing in corporate.
I was about to say, we are building
all the admin work I was doing in corporate, transferred into my first role as an intern in entrepreneurship. I wasn't getting paid for none of this stuff, it was just all intern work. That truth was my first internship. as a grown adult, my first internship. Probably like 29, 30, yeah, 29, like 28, 29.
Humble yourself at 29.
For sure. Yeah.
It's a boss move.
Yeah, because it led to so many other opportunities. Yeah. Because from doing the admin work led to me again going back to corporate. Actually going back to college, I was a building manager. So I had skills of managing a building, so that's how I started managing an e-complex. And then of course the E-Complex was just kind of just being around Dave because that's where he was always there because that was his building. So I got the opportunity to kind of just be in conversations of other entrepreneurs, all these other millionaires. So I've been working with Dave for year after year after year as an intern. I didn't even ask for any money. They actually threw me an opportunity to say, hey, yo, you've been killing it. Here's 10% of every contract that comes to the door. You get 10% of it.
Nice.
Bet. So
did you start pushing contracts?
Absolutely.
Let's go.
So I think they did like their first event when I was working with them. I think did like 2 or 3 events before me, and then I was just like, yo, they're like, yo, look up this. I was like, all right, cool. I looked up stuff, did a research on it. Yeah, we can make money off this, we can make money off this. Now, it's not my biggest strong suit, but I can still I did enough to sustain it, where it's sustainable. And I'm realizing now that I've outgrown this space, and it's time to put somebody else in this space who can actually do a better job and probably make even more money than I've made because it's been a 6-figure business. I've been running it. So I've sustained it so enough to make 6 figures. But I believe it can make so much more. And I think somebody else can do it. I can do different skill sets. Who has a different skill set of sales or maybe just like events and stuff like that. Then I've done that stuff. It's not my strongest suit that I'd rather be focused on. So I can still do all the admin stuff and then put somebody else in place to do that part of it. And I feel like, it can grow itself. But a part of maturity in entrepreneurship is knowing when you've done what you can and being able to pass the baton on to somebody instead of holding on to that baton.
Absolutely. That's leadership right there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
To the person who's going to be able to follow under your tutelage, right? One, because you've had that terrible mentorship from the beginning. You'll never do that to someone. Hopefully you never do that to someone else again.
I teach the right way to do everything because I already know, one, karma follows you everywhere you go.
Yeah.
And then I don't want somebody to kind of just fall into the same trap that I fell into as a gullible individual. I want people to win. I want them to succeed. I want them to take pride in what they're doing, and I want them to leave with grace. I don't want them to leave with pity or anything like that. I want them, to say, I left here. I did a great job, man. Joevan was a bomb, whatever you want to call me, leader, supervisor, whatever floats your boat. Yeah. But it's just, in entrepreneurship, it's all about your environment, who you surround yourself with. I've been with Dave, rocking with Dave for years, and he's the reason why I'm a full-time entrepreneur. He told me for the longest, quit your job, Joe, quit your job. I'm like, I'm not quitting my job. And do what? I got real bills now. I got rent to pay, car insurance, cell phone.
Moved here to Atlanta.
Yeah. I moved to my parents' house, so me and my sister roommating together. So I got real bills. I can't just quit. Yeah. And you figure it out, you quit. And then eventually, lo and behold, I figured it out. He had a role open for managing his clothing line. So yeah, I can do that because I had my own clothing line. Boom, did that. And then this is where I learned the art of negotiation. He needed somebody else to fulfill a slot at the podcast. Before the podcast, I took Brandon's shooters camp because I had a hobby of mine is photography and videography. I thought it was gonna be a business, but I was like, no, I'd rather it just be a hobby, because that's like my peace and my solitude because that's something I did as a kid. And it takes me back to that childhood place that I had some joy in. And with it being a business, I didn't find joy or pleasure in it being a business. So I stopped doing all of that. But I said, I got the skill set. And I said, you need somebody, I can do this. This is gonna cost. And he's like, let's do it. So, I went from one part of pay to an opportunity of growth in another part of pay. And then from that, it led to so many other opportunities because people see, Joevan, man, he can do this. Or Joe, he's good at this, he's good at this. And I just got a new client, not even asking for a client. The client came to me because of the work that I've done because my name, my character holds so much weight nowadays. Yeah. So she's like, I want the same exact thing that you do for this person right here, nothing. Send her an invoice. She said, that's it. Okay, I need one more thing. I'll add it to the invoice. Here you go.
That's amazing.
Paid. I'm
I'm really, how people don't like a young or fix my life. What are you saying? Can you say yes or no?
You didn't like her. Okay. I think a lot of therapists don't like her because she's a coach in a sense. She's not an actual therapist.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the things that she says all the time is you got to do the work, right? I want to dive into you saying that you didn't have negotiation skills, but then going to having to negotiate with Dave and get a higher salary. What was that challenge for you? How did that stretch you? And then what was it like to speak, if you don't mind, sharing what it was like to put the number on the table, have Dave evaluate it. What were your apprehensions? Were you nervous?
Of course.
How did you handle that?
So it's more so learning from other people. So like I say, your environment, again, it goes back to environment. Dave preaches environment, and I'm realizing why he preaches environment so much because when I look back on my life, my environment has taught me so much. I know people in sales. They say when you offer something, you offer it and you be quiet. You don't say anything else. My problem was I would offer it and then the quietness would be there and then I'm like, oh crap, let me say something else. And I messed the whole thing up. I gave Dave the offer. I told him what I can do, what I won't do, what I can't do. And I got quiet. He said, okay. And I said, all right. I went back to my friends, yo, that what you taught me worked. It worked. So it's just picking up traits from other people that you know, this is not my strong suit. They're good in it. Let me learn from them. Let me sit at their feet and learn from them. You know, so someone who's good in sales, I'm gonna sit at your feet, I'm gonna learn from you. Somebody's good in, you know, speaking, I'm gonna sit at your feet, learn how to become a better speaker. Someone's a therapist, let me sit at your feet, learn how to become a better. So it's like humbling yourself enough as an entrepreneur to say, you know what, I still have plenty of space in my life to grow as an entrepreneur. You know, we don't all have it figured out as entrepreneurs.
We think we do.
Yeah, exactly.
And then as soon as you get on social media, there's so many bosses, you know, who just quit, right? And I'm thinking about like the challenges, right? Like we don't always have it all together. And unfortunately, I think fortunately and unfortunately, it just is what it is.
It's both, yeah.
Entrepreneurship shows us who we are.
Absolutely.
Can you describe a time that was like, somebody would be like, if you guys heard this, like if they heard it, they would be like, oh, I'm not going to be an entrepreneur. What was one of the toughest situations that you had to like navigate through as an entrepreneur?
Where do I start? Really, like I lost a $5,000 contract.
What'd you do?
Didn't have a contract.
You didn't have a contract?
Yeah.
What was the challenging part about that?
The fact that I didn't have a contract. So like I just took the money. I didn't do my due diligence on the front end. I took the money, said this is what we're gonna do, and the lady said I need a refund. I said, well, shoot, I can't not refund you. We ain't got nothing, no binding contract in place. That was a challenge of not having things in place before accepting the offers.
Got it.
Another challenge is finding balance. You know, it's hard to find balance in building your dream and then being on the team of, you know, dream builders that help build somebody else's dream, and like finding that balance and where do you fit in? Like, where does your identity fit into this? Because my life is not normal anymore. You know, I hang with millionaires every week at this podcast. You know, so it's like you're sitting here listening to these millionaires. You have, if I pull up my phone, it's probably worth $1 billion in my phone of all the content I've collected over the years of people like, you know, who've been on the podcast or people I've just been interacting with, you know, through other people and stuff like that. And it's like, my biggest challenge is learning how to utilize my resources. I don't do that enough. You know, where I can pick up the phone and say, hey man, like, think you can help me real quick? Or my biggest challenge is like, you know, if I call them, is it gonna cost me? And how much is it gonna cost me? And am I willing to really pay that? Another big challenge is really like, you know, going through the obstacles of life, you know, that work-life balance. Like, how do you have a life as an entrepreneur? Because entrepreneurs, they teach you what? Grind.
Sleep is for what?
Suckers.
Like, straight up. I mean, straight up.
Straight up.
And as mental health professionals,
we like, get some rest. Pull back.
Right. There's this, I used to get like a 4 to 5, which I feel like was more than most. Yeah. And then now I'm like trying to get 6 to 7.
Absolutely.
And it's like,
and then you fighting yourself trying to get to 6 to 7 because you feel bad, like, oh, I slept in today, or I did this. Like, that's one of our biggest challenges now. Is like, okay, Joevan, it's okay. Yeah. Like, just being okay with resting and being okay with just not having anything to do. Because there's times where I'm like, yo, I gotta find something to do. Like, I'm not being my best self today because I'm not doing anything. And I recently just got over this heavy depression and did not realize my therapist was like, yo, you're depressed, dude. Like, you might have got some other things. I'm actually about to go see a psychiatrist. I feel like there's other things going on with me, so get some actual true diagnosis to kind of figure out where exactly do I fit in. I believe every entrepreneur should get one, because you need to know what's going on with you and how to navigate throughout this life called entrepreneurship. Because when you're depressed, and you know, okay, I'm depressed right now, I need to sit down. Or, you know, my anxiety is through the roof right now. What is triggering my anxiety in this business? Because entrepreneurship is a big mental issue itself. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are, oh, this is part of the grind, this is part of life, you know, success loves speed, you know, but it doesn't. I don't agree with it. It's so much. There's so much to unpack just in that. That's a whole other episode by itself.
I was gonna say it is, but I think that, you know, the healing part, because I was gonna ask you this, and it does go into the question, because I think that being an entrepreneur is outside of the system, right? And the system allows us to be on autopilot.
Right.
And when you're not on autopilot, your mindset is working itself, right? Mindfulness automatically makes being on autopilot a challenge. So there are people who've gotten fired from corporations. When you start being in tune with your values, you're like, hold up, this job ain't in tune with my values. And they're like, oh, there's actual studies that some companies will invest in mindfulness in certain departments, but others, they benefit off of people being on autopilot. Yeah. So like, as we become entrepreneurs, we are always making decisions. We have to be thoughtful about every interaction. We have to be thoughtful about our interactions with our clients, and we have to make money. Yeah. Whereas one of those things of the four is typically on autopilot when you're in corporate. We have to heal. And as you're talking about the challenges of like, negotiating your prices, being able to navigate these relationships, I'm thinking about the healing process. And if you wouldn't mind sharing one that you have like already gone through, because like Lisa Nichols will say, share the test, not the test. Share the testimony, not the test. Right. Don't tell them what the test is while you go through it. Share it while you're done. And I often feel like, healing out in the open, especially in this space in entrepreneurship, we're content creators. Yeah. Some entrepreneurs get to be entrepreneurs behind closed doors, but we're entrepreneurs in the limelight. Yes. So for you, what is something that you've had to heal from? But like, what did it feel like in the process? Because the work is not pretty. I think it's super embarrassing. But because you're a mental health professional, I feel like you'd be a good person to share like what that really looks like. And because I was afraid that people would think I was crazy. I was a perfectionist, so I was afraid that people would see what was behind what people thought was so awesome, right? And I was like, if they get to know me, if they get to know the real me, will they either judge me or will they be like, oh, this is amazing? Yeah. I was afraid. I was walking a tightrope for a long time. So like for you to heal from any of the stuff, childhood, corporate, imposter syndrome, any of the things that you've experienced, what's something that you have healed from? And what did that look like, though people may not know? Yeah, so I don't know if I'm so transparent in my life right now. I think everybody know everything. No, but see, at the end of the day, like a lot of these guys, they probably never heard of me before. And this is the thing, like you talk about your childhood molestation. The first time I heard you speak about your sexual relationships and understanding, like, do I want to be with a man or a woman? Like I was like, yo, he is going hard, right? Yeah. And even when I heard you go live on Instagram and you were talking about, yo, I got comfortable. When I quit my job and you started making your money, you were like, I got comfortable. I haven't been pushing as hard. So you do own your stuff. But those of you guys who don't know, they may not actually have heard it. So feel free to share one that you've shared before. Like you mentioned it, my sexual lifestyle. Being molested, it led me into an identity crisis where I just didn't know what I was, because my, molester was a guy. And that's, as a child, you think, okay, this is what sexuality is about. Yeah. And then as you get older, you start hanging around, kids at school, like, oh, you gotta be with women. And I'm all the way confused as a child growing into my adulthood to where I started exploring my sexuality. And I realized, okay, this side of life is just not for me. Nothing against anybody who lives the LGBTQ lifestyle, nothing against them at all, because I have some great friends who are, of that lifestyle, or whichever you want to call it. If I'm not speaking the right terminology, forgive me. But, just that was one of my biggest challenges of overcoming is that. And then what people would think about me. I, would tremble when I would tell that story. When I first told it, I just couldn't get the words out. Right. And then now I've gotten so comfortable with myself and I've gotten so secure in myself because I've healed from that. Healing is so important. Whatever the biggest traumatic experience that you've gone through in life, that's what your focus should be on as far as healing when you want to become an entrepreneur. Because what happens is whatever stain or whatever piece of guilt or whatever trauma that you've been through in corporate life, personal life, regular life, it's going to spew over into entrepreneurship. If you're, not organized, your disorganization is going to spew over. If you're going through something like myself, an identity crisis with your sexuality, that's going to spew over because you're going to think every person that you're, because once upon a time, I was thinking, yo, if
if I tell this story and I'm around all these guys, they don't think, oh, this dude's checking me out. He want me. I don't feel comfortable, secure around him because I may not be secure in my sexuality as a guy. And it was just like all these thoughts going through my head. And like, you know what, Joevan, you got to heal from this because nobody's thinking this. And then when I told the story, they're like, dang, man, I wouldn't even thought you went through that. And like, dang, man, you went through that? And they're like, man, well, I appreciate you sharing that. And when I'm sharing these stories, I'm realizing, yo, I'm getting phone calls from people that I know for a long time. Yo, man, I went through that too. Man, thank you for sharing, man, because you helped me heal my healing process. And I'm realizing that when you share the pain that you feel like you're the only person going through, because for the longest, I just told my therapist that I just feel like I'm the only person going through it. And surprisingly, she went through the same exact thing that I went through. And she's like, that was it? Like, I went through that same exact thing. You're not the only person going through this. And I was like, I'm not. And some people like, oh, she just took like your healing, your problem, and just diminished it. And like, nah, she touched a part of me that I've been hurting and thinking in my head, like,
you alone.
I'm alone. And she helped me realize that, one, you're not alone in what you're going through. And to anybody out there who's thinking, yo, I'm alone in whether it's your sexual identity or you're alone in your, you know, in your own personal identity crisis, you're alone in entrepreneurship, you're not the only person going through this. And it's when you open your mouth and you have the courage to speak life to the situation that you're going through and be vulnerable enough to say, you know what, this is what I've gone through. I'm either healing through this or I'm figuring this thing out, or no one's really healed. So I don't really like people using that word, oh, I've healed, because you don't. I still have growing pains of everything that I've gone through at 12, 13, 14, 15 to this day. But the thing is, I'm still healing. I'm learning to cope and I'm learning to deal with it.
Yeah.
And learn, okay, when I have these moments of depression, Joevan, how do you know? Self-awareness. Okay, I know what my depression looks like. I know what it feels like. I know what it smells like. I know what it tastes like. So that self-awareness is what entrepreneurs need to get themselves to when, okay, I've been going hard for 10 months now. Month 11, I'm taking the month 11 off because I've gone so hard. I made enough money that can sustain me through month 11 and even 12.
Yeah.
So it's just like becoming self-aware and just being bold enough and brave enough to be vulnerable. Like I tell people all the time, vulnerability is the new sexy. I don't care what nobody say.
It don't feel sexy.
It don't feel sexy, of course. But you think about it, it's like going to the gym. And you've been out of shape for so long. Yeah. And you finally get the courage, like, me and Words, like, you know, Words is going through this weight loss journey. My thing was, Words, this summer, yo, you taking that shirt off.
I was about to say, when we what's the?
I'm gonna follow up with it.
I saw that episode. Y'all gotta check that episode out because it was amazing.
But it's just getting people to do the thing that they feel like they're going to be judged for so much. I would take my shirt off right now in this episode if I had to, because I don't care. It's like you got to get yourself to a point where you don't care what people. Because I always in my head I always think, oh man, what are people going to think about me if I do this? Or what are people going to think about me this? No, I just don't care anymore because I'm healing to the point where I just don't care. That part of, you know, wondering what people. Their thought is against me is more so what do I think about myself? Yeah. Do I love myself enough to say, you know what, though I may not like who I see in the mirror, I love the person though. There's a difference. People gotta realize the difference between liking and love, and especially when it comes to yourself. Yeah. I don't like this body right now. That's why I'm working on it. But I love me as a person. Yeah. And the difference is the fact that I love me so much that I don't care what people say about my man boobs, my stomach, my thick thighs, whatever. I don't care because I love me enough to say, you know what? I mean, I like this person, but I love Joevan. Yeah. And I've never been to a point in my life where I can thoroughly say and actually believe the fact that I love me.
Come on, healing.
Oh, that's what healing looks like. Healing is different for everyone's journey. It's like, you know, you come from corporate America and you're pulling all of corporate into entrepreneurship. You got to ask yourself, do I love myself enough to say, you know what? All of corporate can't come with me. Yeah. And even if you're an entrepreneur, you got to ask yourself, all of what I don't know about corporate, I can't push out of here because a lot of corporate stuff has helped me in my entrepreneurship journey. And a lot of this corporate stuff has helped other people in their entrepreneurship journeys. Right. So it's all about, you know, knowing yourself enough to be confident in who you are and confident in the ability that you have to succeed in that role.
That's beautiful. Man, this was a really I knew it was going to be a dope conversation because, you know, I focus on the exit strategy a lot. I focus on the technical side of the exit, the planning piece, but the healing piece is so essential. Yeah. And that's why I told y'all I was excited that I got to have a chance to speak with another mental health professional, someone who went the other way of social work, which is so needed. And you kind of touched on it just a little bit. So before we get up out of here, I'm thinking about like the person who needs to heal before they leave, and heal while you still have that income still in place, right? Because like, you know, when you're an entrepreneur and you go through depression, your revenue is affected because now you don't feel like doing those revenue generating activities.
Yeah.
But if you can heal, my thought is you can heal before you actually exit, heal before you lose that sense of security, and process it. But from a professional standpoint, what does that look like? How would you suggest someone start their healing process before they leave corporate America?
So before someone leaves corporate America, in my personal and professional opinion, identify a therapist right now. While you have insurance, and build a relationship with them, because it could be a thing right now, because a lot of people feel like, oh, once I leave this job, I don't have insurance. There's the marketplace, there's private insurance, there's so many other things, other ways out there. There's out-of-pocket expenses, like I said, building that relationship. A lot of therapists have family and friends discounts that they offer that they can give you because you've been with them. They don't want to stop working with you, because once you start with a therapist, it's like you gotta find another one's like going to a brand new school. Like, oh, I gotta learn, make new friends again.
Like make a new
boyfriend. Right, yeah. I don't want to do this all over again. Yeah. So I'll say find a therapist now that one works for you. When it comes to finding a therapist, interview your therapist. The first one may not work for you, the second one may not work for you, but sometimes the third one is the charm. So identify a therapist right now that aligns with your core values, but sometimes goes against your values, that's gonna be able to push you out of your comfort zone.
Come on!
Because sometimes we want somebody that's just like us, that's gonna sometimes, hey, oh, I feel you, everything's gonna be okay. No, you want somebody that's gonna go challenge you and go against the grain a little bit. That's my therapist. She challenges me. She goes against the grain. She going against my belief system and challenge my belief system, my spiritual belief system, all that stuff. But it's grown me so much to become one so open-minded in sharing the vulnerable sides of me. So I would say find a therapist that works for you. Start your healing process while you're in corporate America. Start sharing all of the traumas that you've experienced in corporate America with your therapist, so they can help you with your exit strategy. So like getting with a person like you who does exit strategy, which is good because you know social work, you know corporate, you can actually help somebody find and pen the actual strategy that works. Absolutely. Yeah, and identify with a strategy that works for them. And
then they can, like you said, partner with the therapist.
Yeah.
To work through
it. Because once you jump into entrepreneurship, you're gonna go through all the woes of life. Depression, anxiety, you know, whatever, PTSD from corporate.
Yes.
Which is something not talked about.
No.
You know, ADHD. You might learn that I think I might have ADHD. That's why I'm going to get my diagnosis. Find out and get my medicine. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm gonna do an episode on it one day. When I find out what the diagnosis is, I got diagnosed, y'all, and you should too. There's nothing wrong with it. I think so many entrepreneurs, we run from therapy because we're scared that the one thing that we thought we were good at is going to get taken away from us. But what we don't realize that the one thing we're good at, therapy is going to help us become greater at it.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the other part is in our space as well, when you don't trust, like when you have trust issues, because that's another thing that comes from trauma. So you don't necessarily trust a person to help you shift your perspective.
Absolutely.
So you have to, again, like when you said building the relationship with your therapist before you leave, I think that's awesome because, you know, corporations also have EAP programs.
Yeah.
So you can get your first 6 sessions on the company.
Exactly.
Build that relationship. And then when you leave, like you said, leverage the relationship to possibly get family and friends discount. Or even if you're making money in entrepreneurship, you still have that relationship.
Or even if you know what, you can like, okay, if the family and friends discount, you can't afford it every week. But you can afford it once a month.
Yeah.
Look at your life, look at your lifestyle, say, okay, what can I cut out? Because I believe it should be a line item in your budget as an entrepreneur.
Come on.
If you know what, if you're going out to the club, you're going to go out party, you're going out drinking, can I cut back on a brunch once a month to go to therapy? Can I, you know what, cut the cable TV off for therapy? Nobody uses cable anyway. Get rid of the luxuries that corporate once offered you. Get uncomfortable in entrepreneurship, but also get comfortable in your healing journey. Get uncomfortable in your healing journey so you can get comfortable in life later on. Because what happens when you start healing, opportunities that you once missed, that you've been blinded by, are going to start coming to you because you are so much more self-aware of yourself. You started healing. You started realizing, okay, I can do so much better in life, or I can change these systems and processes up. There's so much more that can come to you as an individual when you start the healing process, when you're open to just become open to therapy.
Come on.
There's nothing wrong with being open to therapy. There's nothing wrong with being open to healing. There's nothing being wrong with open to vulnerability.
Yeah.
and you become such a better person. I know I notice when I don't go to therapy as often versus when I go to therapy as often, the difference in my life, my lifestyle. So now that I'm back heavy in therapy, like I said, when I got depressed, I just kind of cut everything off a little bit. And as a mental health professional, that's like, people look at me like, oh my gosh, like, he's a mental health professional and then he's taking off. No, I go through stuff as I'm still human.
Absolutely.
And I go through stuff, and there's times where I need to just kind of steal away, get away, and just kind of figure out, okay, what's going on with me? And then I take all that stuff to my therapist and say, hey, we sat down last Friday and talked for like almost hour and a half, 2 hours. This is what all I've been dealing with. And she's like, okay. And she's so good. She's like, I know exactly what the issue is. You think this is, so she's like, yeah. I'm not gonna share it now because I need to process this with her.
Share the testimony of the day.
Exactly. But she pinpointed all the stuff because we built a relationship.
Yeah.
And she knows me through and through, and she knows that I've been going through. She knows the things that I haven't explored in therapy. She knows the things that I have explored in therapy. And one of the things I haven't explored in therapy is exactly what caused my current depression right now that I've been going through. And so we're dealing through that right now. And I believe once we work through this, the gates are about to open up for me because I've got over another obstacle, another hurdle, and now I can start focusing back on the business again.
I know exactly how you feel. And I love the way you talk about therapy and mental health so transparently. Those of you guys who are watching and listening, I'm not sure how you feel about therapy, and I'm not sure how you feel about the healing process, or even if you know why you want to leave corporate America. But I suggest that if you have that inkling that you are going to leave, that's enough for you to process with a therapist.
Absolutely.
And then you guys are going to uncover some other things as you talk, but start there. I want to quit my job. And I do also have like other like coaching primers to go in. If you feel like nothing's wrong, I just want to leave, then I have some primers for you to go in and start.
I actually talked to my therapist about leaving my job before I left.
There you go.
Yeah, she was like, what you gonna do for income? So she challenged me to make sure I was making the right decision and make sure it wasn't a decision coming from trauma. Because sometimes we make decisions based upon, I want to do my own thing because this job ain't treat me right, this person ain't treat me right, and and so and so can do it, I can do it. That's true. If so and so can do it, you too can do it.
Yeah.
But so and so may have done it the right way versus you doing it out of spite of what it may have happened.
Yeah, I always say entrepreneurship is actually easy.
Once you figure it out,
yeah, the numbers, but the healing journey has been the biggest lesson for me.
Absolutely.
It's like the numbers add up, the system processes, all that stuff, cool. But then it's like you gotta master yourself now, and self mastery is a part of the process that I think everybody should start.
Absolutely, I think that self mastery is what makes a great entrepreneur.
Come on,
it makes a great human being. It makes a great father, great mother. Once you master yourself and you figure, okay, this is who I am, and this is the process that I have to stick to get through, and this is what works for me and works for my business, and this is what makes me thrive, and what makes my business makes the 6 figures, the 7 figures, the 8 figures. That self-mastery of figuring out, discovering who you are and just being awakened to that person. It's a beautiful thing, like when you realize, okay, dang, that's me. And then when you get to look back at your old self and then look at your new self and you're like, oh my gosh, like I really was going through some stuff, and I've gotten through that stuff. And you realize, okay, through therapy, through mindfulness, through environment, through having conversations like this, is like you realize the joy of it all. And at the end of the day, there's joy in it all. There's not always a downside. There's still joy inside of it all. There's still love, there's peace and happiness, and you get to smile at the end of the day.
I agree. Y'all hear that? So when you think I'm too positive, just remember what Joevan said. So listen, we are about to get up out of here, but for those who are watching and they want to work with you or they want to continue following your journey, what are some things, one, how can they connect with you, and what are some things that you're offering?
Yeah. So you can find me on social, Joevan J. Palmer, that's Joevan J. Palmer. I'm offering something new program. It's called Identify to Heal, where we help you identify the trauma and how do you begin the healing process. So for me, I always lead with my story first, because I feel like if I'm going to lead people to identify their problems, their traumas, and then go to the healing process, why not start me first? So throughout the program, we talk about, mindfulness, we talk about, the healing journey, we talk about identifying what exactly is the main thing that you're going through. And it's a 4-week program, live Q&As throughout the week, modules, all types of stuff. I'm not gonna give it all away, but
You gotta reach out.
You gotta reach out. So identifythehill.com. Or it might be the bonus too. I'm not 1,000% sure, but I'll give you the link to which whenever I decide on. And they can sign up there. I also do one-on-one coaching as well. Okay. So if you say, you know what, I'm not into the whole group thing, I'd rather just work with someone one-on-one. We can work out some one-on-ones, figure out, okay, am I the right person for you first? So we sit down, do a 15-minute consult, and we go from there. And then also, you know, if you need a resource for therapy, hit me up. blackmentherapy.com, black girls, I think it's blackgirlstherapy.org. There's so many. Psychology Today. You can find everything you need on Psychology Today.
I'm actually creating a database of my own.
I can't wait.
Don't worry, I'll share more.
So, I'm gonna have you. But listen, start your healing journey now. Whether it's with me, Ariel, or anybody, you know, just get started.
Get healed.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Joevan Palmer. If you missed it, it'll obviously be on the screen. But thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
It's been dope. Thank y'all for watching. Thank you for listening. And until next time, peace out. But especially, get healed.
Absolutely.
Peace.
Peace.